I suppose that, he had the Vikings sort of appeared in the world as such, like within I suppose other societies around the late 8th century when they started launching their raids. And it's about this time that obviously they come into conflict with Christianity. Not conflict so much, but more as coming across it as an alternate idea. You don't want to sit there and hear how people come up to you and go, look, you can keep doing this, but you're going to burn for all eternity. All right, eternity is a long time.
The Vikings themselves were fishermen and farmers living in southern Sweden and Norway, and they used to take part in summer raids mainly in search of wealth and everything else. In Anglo-Saxon, the word Viking, W-I-C-I-N-G, became the word that was used for a pirate and for piracy. From the Old Norse expression, Vikling, it means a sailor, and it means a sailor who particularly came from an area around Oslo. From there it got changed to mean anybody who was a seaborne warrior, and from there on in it meant anybody who came from Scandinavia. So that's the way the word came through.
The Vikings gained a pretty terrible reputation because going out targeting monasteries and churches as places to raid, because back then it's a place you're most likely to find gold and like silver crosses, gold crosses, your jeweled cups and stuff like that. So it was a target for them, and it wasn't a let's destroy this faith or anything like that, but it became known as the Vikings used to go around and almost go from one monastery and church to the next one, because they're the, I suppose, the target-rich environments that you want to hit if you're going out raiding and you want your plunder, you want your gold and stuff like that. So, there was this conflict to start with.
And it's well known in examples from France, from Normandy, where they raided, that the local barons and the townspeople would use the monastery as a central banking point, and so they would store stuff there, and they were thought of then as sort of centralised stores for the local food and wealth, so they were easy pickings.
I suppose once the Vikings actually decided they decided around I think the actual date's around 1851. All right, around 1851 they sort of decide that they're actually going to settle in England. But before then they've been doing raids in England, Ireland, Scotland for quite a long time. So they're obviously coming across Christianity. And I suppose really once they decide to settle down and sort of integrate with the actual populations that lived in England at the time, they come across Christianity, and obviously the Christian population's there. So you actually have quite a lot of Vikings starting to convert. Now, it was actually pretty rapid conversion, so much so that, you can almost say about 200 years after the year was 1024. Year 1024 is when Christianity actually became the official religion of Norway. Before then you'd had, Viking leaders that had gone across and maybe grown up or at least settled in England, getting converted and then bring Christianity back across and trying to conquer Norway and Denmark and those Scandinavian countries which the Vikings basically came from. So you did have the early conflict with the church, and then I suppose almost through a process of assimilation, just because they actually had settled there, they made their own towns and stuff, but mixing with the local population, the Saxons and stuff that already did live and were Christian in England, gradually conversions occur, and then all it takes is really one leader to get converted, and then they can, force it upon other people, and that's generally what happens. So. Well, I suppose you never want to snub your nose at a completely new religion that everyone else seems to be doing, and offers not just rewards but also punishment. All right, and that was a big concept. Christianity introduced that concept that people will be held accountable for what they did on, in their day-to-day lives, or be held accountable in the afterlife. And that was extremely popular idea, especially amongst the poorer sections within all societies. Straight away, especially when you have the medieval rule of a few down on a couple others, and often that didn't have any checks and balances. So as soon as you're starting to introduce the fact that, okay, you're going to get held responsible for this, and if you live a good life, you're going to go to heaven. If you live a bad life, you're going to go to hell. It's a powerful motivating factor. But it wasn't like a straight over cross. There was actually for quite a long time there was a lot of Vikings actually did both. Like there's a whole heap of gravestones and tombs all throughout England where you actually find the hammer of Thor and a Christian cross. So it's not like having to go, sort of having a bob each way. Sort of, make sure you cover your bases. There was a guy known as Olaf Haraldsson, and as a teenager he was given ships and men and told to go Viking by his father, which basically go out and plunder and do what you need to do. During this period he became famous for pulling down the London Bridge, and he died in the Battle of Stiklestad and in Norway some years later in a battle against the local pagans, and was actually made a saint of the church.
Quite often the Vikings were not just Eric Bloodaxe going in with his double-headed axe swinging and creating mayhem, but they were very clever because they would steal books and manuscripts which they would then sell back to the people. Aelfred, who was one of the ealdormen in southern England, in Canterbury, paid gold for the return of the Codex Aureus, the gold Gospels, the gold Gospel book, after the sacking of Canterbury in 851, for example. If you look across Ireland, and especially down the east coast of the United Kingdom, then there are extensive examples of gravestones which carry both the cross and one of the Viking god Thor's hammer. In some of the excavations for York there is a silver, what we would now call penny, with the word sancti written on it, holy. The difference is that it's spelt S-A-N-C-T, but instead of the I there is Thor's hammer. The Vikings had the idea that we'll live in harmony with both. You can both be pagan and you can be Christian at the same time. Many of the Vikings lived harmoniously alongside of the people. They didn't turn out the people in the areas that they conquered. They lived harmoniously. There was a lot of intermarriage, there was a lot of conversion to Christianity, and it was a matter of if it helps to become a Christian and it helps trade and settlement and all that, then we'll do that. But we still keep the words and we still keep the beliefs of many of the areas that we lived in.
Yeah, well, got anything else? Like, are there any specific, you think, reasons for them converting to Christianity and over paganism, or anything like that? Like, why do you think that they actually did convert? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's recording now, so just when you're ready.
Years after the years.
Became influenced by the objective that even their God
God of Thunder, plus the other gods of creation, were very similar.